Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Travel Coach Network podcast. It is I, Sahara Savor, the founder of the Travel Coach Network and the creator and instructor of the Travel Coach Certification Program. Today, we have guest Addie Wieland. Addie is a licensed clinical social worker, therapist, entrepreneur, private practice owner, and a travel and mindset coach. Personally, Addie started her digital nomad lifestyle with her family in 2020, where they sold all of their belongings and began traveling in an RV around the country for the past 4 years. Addie decided to blend her passion of traveling with her family and mental wellness to create a group coaching program aimed specifically at helping families live the same way. She's obsessed with helping aspiring digital nomad families ditch the 9 to 5 grind for a life full of freedom, adventure, and flexibility. Addie, thank you so much for joining us on the TCN podcast today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. Let's get started here. Tell us more about yourself and where your passion for travel stemmed from.
Well, you pretty much read my bio, so that's all about me. So I'm a mental health therapist. I've had an online practice since actually a little bit before the pandemic started. And yeah, I've been traveling in an RV, with my family for that time period. I would say my love of travel definitely came from my mom. She is a huge traveler. We traveled some as kids, but she just loves to travel kind of on her own with friends. And so I grew up just watching her. It's kind of a running joke in our family that we never know where she's going to be. Because she's very spontaneous. She'll just go on trips. She's like that one friend that you can call and they'll be like, sure, and go. So I feel like I really got that from her and started traveling pretty, after college myself and kind of got that definitely passion from her.
So you say in 2020, you and your family kind of just packed up everything and started traveling in an RV. Can you share us more about where your mindset was at during that time? Because that's for a lot of people, they can't imagine doing something like that. They're like, I have all these responsibilities, we have bills, we have kids, we have, all this going on in our life. What were you, yeah, where was your mind back then? And where did that courage come from?
Yeah, so it kind of started, well, back up a little bit. Like, me and my husband, we met, in high school, actually dated a little bit after college. Lived in one town. We're from Texas, and so we lived in a bigger city. We kind of had really fun without kids, lived our life. Then my daughter came along, and we were like, okay, well, we kind of want to live closer to family. So we moved away from our big city, kind of went to a smaller town to where closer to where my mom lives. We had my daughter. We kind of weren't super sure if we wanted to like put down roots there. So we had never actually bought a house. We were just kind of living in the guest house of my mom's house. And we were like, should we buy a house? Should we not? We were just kind of going back and forth, but we just didn't really feel like we had found our home. But we didn't really want to go back to the bigger city that we were from. We were kind of feeling like we don't know where we want to live and where we want to raise our daughter. So it honestly happened extremely randomly, kind of just like one of those aha moments where it's like, ding, we were at this big gas station. It's this big gas station in Texas. It's called Buc-ee's. There's a lot of RVers that go through there because it's popular with RVers. And I was sitting in the we were sitting in the gas station and I just looked over and like a huge, I think it was like a Class C, one of those big ones that you drive, like pulled in. And I just was looking at it and I just thought, what if we just lived in one of those and like traveled around, And so I had this crazy idea and I just blurted it out to my husband, like, what if we just like live in one of those, and kind of expecting to be like, no, like that's stupid. But he was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Maybe we could like do that. So I was like, okay. So of course it was just really a pipe dream. But I just started doing research. I just thought, is this even possible? Like I said, at the time that I had that idea, I think it was maybe like 2019. I don't remember exactly. So it was before the pandemic. Um, online therapy was a thing, but not really mainstream, definitely not like it is now. It was more something that like the VA, like the veterans would do, Veterans Hospital would do. So it was a thing, but it wasn't like super mainstream. So I wasn't even sure if I could do it. At the time, I didn't have my private practice at all. I was working in an agency, like at a college counseling center. It was actually a really good job. I was in management, like great benefits. I loved my colleagues. So it was a pretty scary jump to think about leaving all of that, security. Obviously, we had family, we had a baby at the time. So we just kind of started researching, like, can we do this? I found this really awesome Facebook group. It was in like online therapist Facebook group. And this woman, her name's Amber Lighter, she's awesome. She was just talking about how she was starting her online business. And so I was like, okay, like people do this, like we could do this. So yeah, we just kind of slowly started thinking, okay, well, what what kind of RV would we want? What would that look like? None of it, me nor my husband really had experiences with RVs. Luckily, my husband's pretty like handy, so he can kind of like figure that stuff out. So slowly but surely, we kind of made the decision like, okay, we're gonna do this. We're gonna just make it work. At the time, I want to say my husband was maybe, I don't remember if he was working or not, or maybe he had gotten an online job. I can't remember, but yeah. So then we just started slowly. I think we bought the truck first, maybe because we needed a specific truck for the RV that we needed. Then we bought the RV, and then we lived in the RV a little bit before we actually launched. I feel like that was the hardest part because I was just thinking like I didn't do this lifestyle to just live in an RV. Not just live in an RV, because I know people do that and that's totally fine, but that's not the reason that we wanted to live in an RV. We wanted to travel. So that was really hard, but and then the pandemic hit and we were like, holy moly, like what do we do now? So it kind of took us a minute to figure that out. I know that was like for everybody. And at the time I was working my 9 to 5 and building my private practice after work. But I was getting clients, it was going fine. So I got a couple contracts and then yeah, we just kind of picked a date and said we're going to launch at this date, and we did. And yeah. So I think it was definitely some bravery, a little bit of like naiveness because we didn't really completely know what we were getting into. That first year was actually really rough. Um, but we just went for it. And I guess our mentality from to this day, because we're about to do something very scary again, is like if we don't like it, we can just come back. It's not that big of a deal, right? Like we can literally just come back. So that's kind of
Yeah, it's better to like try it than not. And this is something I believe in. It's like I'd rather just try it and put yourself out there. And if it doesn't work out, you didn't like it, at least you've tried it
yeah,
versus, fast forward being like, I wish I had done this, or I
exactly.
wish, living your life with regrets, right? We
Exactly.
only have certain amount of time in our life to be able to do certain things, and we don't get that time back. I've just met way too many people in my life, especially traveling, like a lot of older couples who are like, I wish I had traveled at your age, or I wish I had done this. And I'm like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to
Exactly.
back. But
Yeah.
anyways, that's an incredible story. I mean, it's what you shared there has a lot that resonates with not only, creating a lifestyle that makes you feel fulfilled and happy, which a lot of people are looking to do, but don't often have the courage or know how to do that, or feel like they can do it. But also like even just in the world of business too, like you're putting yourself out there, you're creating something that you it's on the cusp of something new. You heard of a couple people who have put in online practice. And that resonates a lot with the travel coaching world too, because travel coaching itself has not been around for that long. Now, I started the Travel Coach Network in 2019, but back then, I there was barely anything talked about travel coaching, and it's grown quite a bit now, but still, it's still a newer concept. And people are like, "Is it a thing? Can I do this? Can I, how can I create something that I really truly am passionate about?" And that's really what you've been doing. But like I read in your bio, you do several different things, but a lot of it has to do in the world of like therapy and mental wellness. Where does that combined with travel? And what inspired you to become a travel and mindset coach? And who exactly do you help?
Yeah, so that was fast forward. So we like went on the road. We traveled for about the past 4 years. We would usually travel like 7 months out of the year, and then we come for a home base in Texas for the winter, and then go out again. And as we were traveling, of course, we had my daughter at the time, and then I got pregnant with my son and had my son kind of like on the road. I mean, obviously, like we stopped and had him in a hospital, but had a baby and a toddler on the road. So I'd get lots of questions from families all the time, or friends or other people, of like, how do you do this? And how does it work with the baby? And oh my gosh, like, so many of like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that. And I'd be like, you can, like, you totally can do it. If we can do it, anyone can do it. So after just getting those questions a lot, and kind of was at a point with my private practice where I didn't really want to take on more clients and just expand that way. So I wanted to kind of leverage my time. And so then I got into coaching and started my coaching business. I was in a coaching program to kind of like help me do that. And in thinking about like who I wanted to coach and what I wanted to work with, like this concept of helping families who wanted to live like mine, like kept coming up and kept coming up just because, of course, people are, I think, just more interested. I think, especially with the pandemic and people realizing like, you can travel and work and be with kids and all of that stuff. That really changed, online schooling. Like, I think that just really changed everything. I just, yeah, just kind of like thought about, okay, what if I help, families who want to live like mine, but maybe don't know where to start. Specifically, I feel like a lot of mindset comes up with it, specifically with kids. Like, what do you mean? What about school? You can't, they need stability, all of those things that we've heard over and over again from our own, sometimes, not really family, but maybe distant people. So with that, kind of created the Adventure Architects program, and that is a group coaching program. It's like 12 weeks, and it's for families who want to live like mine, like ditch the 9 to 5, but maybe just really aren't sure how. And so in that group coaching program, I really help just, the goal is to transition them to become a digital nomad family within 6 months. And so we focus on like online income and how they can build their income depending on, now I feel like there's so many different ways that you could do it, right? And just like you can create your own things too, right? Which I know seem extremely intimidating and maybe like a pipe dream, but it's really not. And I think a big part of that is also mindset and like that imposter syndrome. So kind of helping to work through that, on top of like just the logistics piece, like if they have a house, talk about options or like packing or travel, planning trips or all that stuff. We talk about world schooling in there, just like if they have, if just how to educate their kids, what that looks like. We definitely talk about mental wellness because I feel like I said that first year was really difficult for us. And I feel like that taught us a lot just about mental wellness and shifting from like vacation mode to like this is your life mode because it can look very differently. So we definitely just talk about like how to stay healthy on the road, like how not to go crazy, being in small spaces with your family, all of that good stuff. How to make friends and connection, because I feel like that's a huge one for people. So it's pretty much all wrapped up and run in this program and just helping families, yeah, to get on the road, be healthy doing it, all of that good stuff.
And you say it's a group coaching program. So do you serve several families at once?
Yeah, so several families at once, they come in. And so I have like a recorded course, a 12-week recorded course that they follow. And then just like the accountability piece, because I know for me, I've been in so many courses that I've never finished. So I really need the accountability piece. So that's the piece that I really wanted to add in. So we have a weekly like group coaching calls where they can come, any sort of question in regard to anything I can answer during those group coaching calls. I have like a few one-on-ones that I do throughout those 12 weeks, but for the most part, yeah, group coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I ask that because a lot of times a lot of listeners are travel coaches or people looking to learn more about what travel coaching is as well. And they always think, well, because coaching's in the term, I have to work one-on-one with people.
Mhm.
Or, I don't necessarily want to exchange my time for a one-on-one session. And I'm in the Travel Coach Network, we always tell people like you can really sculpt your revenue streams however you want. And also don't overlook digital products, right? If
Mhm.
you're repeating content over and over again, put that in some sort of system, like a course, like you have, where you can teach this information to people and then you add that personalized aspect like you have with accountability or the group coaching aspect too, or being able to serve more people at once versus just working with individuals.
Yeah.
How did you come up with, and this is always something very tricky for coaches in general, how did you come up with your pricing structure or coming up with the price? Did you start at a certain price and kind of fluctuated or changed it? Can you share more about that?
Yeah, so I'm pretty new in the coaching kind of like world. It's like maybe been a couple months. So I'm still kind of trying to figure that out. Definitely, yeah, with group coaching and because the program is 3 months, it's like super comprehensive. I would definitely say it's more high ticket. In the beginning, I did offer some like more discounted rates. I think this is like a common like coaching thing, like a beta round to where you kind of offer discounted rates in order to like get feedback and kind of proof of concept and all of that good stuff. Um, but yeah, I think I did it similarly to how I figured out my rate for my private practice, just kind of taking into account how much that I wanted to work, how much I put into it, kind of thinking about like all of that. And also I'm in my own coaching program and they kind of help you figure out like the pricing of it.
Yeah, because pricing can always be really difficult, but like you mentioned, it's a really good idea to always start with that beta. You're going to want to collect some feedback. You're going to want to get some reviews, testimonials. Your programs, whether they're working with individuals or it's a group coaching or it's a course, it's going to evolve based off of what you learn as you grow and you get more practice as a coach and you learn more from your clients. They tell you what they really are looking for, or you see and hear common questions or needs that you're like, oh, I didn't really think about adding that before. So it's a
Yeah.
constant evolution, and I think every coach, no matter what category you're in, is kind of on that journey there.
Sure.
um, when it comes to your uh I'm a big believer. So I started my business as a wellness travel coach, more so in the corporate space, because I'm a big believer in the wellness benefits of traveling. So the mental, the physical, the social, the emotional wellness benefits that travel can bring to us, like spending time outdoors in nature. It was doing that for me for so long without me being aware of it when I was just a solo backpacker. So do you see any overlap or alignment between your work as a therapist and what you help people with through their wellness and travel?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like it all kind of like mends together. Like I said, I feel like a big piece is like that mindset piece because there's just a lot of those beliefs that can come up I think whenever you're doing something scary or maybe a little bit different than like the quote unquote normal, though I feel like becoming a digital nomad and even becoming with a family is becoming more and more popular, but still, Aunt Sally might not like it or whatever. So I feel like the mindset, that piece I definitely incorporate, in terms of like using my therapy skills to help families just kind of get past that, yeah, imposter syndrome or past that and beliefs. Definitely with the wellness, like I said earlier, just kind of thinking about like how you want your life to look when you start traveling and what that wants to, how you want to look, how you want that to look. I feel like for some families, there might be unrealistic expectations of like on the beach and it's like so nice and for sure, right? But also traveling can be stressful and it can bring up a lot of anxiety. And so I think it is really important about like how you manage that. What are some ways to maybe cut that down? I know like for me, I push a lot of, I mean, everybody's very personal choice, but I push a lot of like more slow travel instead of that like really fast travel because our nervous system, like that's sometimes just not great for it to be constantly changing like all of the time. So, maybe staying somewhere for like a month or at least 2 weeks to kind of help with that. Definitely, incorporating that, let's see, how else would I do that? And also just, healthy communication, because again, you're staying in a small space with your family all of the time. I think especially with parents, and this is I talk about a lot, the the one, I don't want to say drawback, but I guess sort of with traveling as a family is you don't just have that instant support where you can drop off the kids at grandma and like go for a date night if you need to reconnect with your partner, right? So how can you do that on the road? Like what can that look like? How can you be really intentional about asking your partner or first recognizing in yourself like, ooh, I'm like super close to burnout, right? Like what does that look like for me? And can you communicate to your partner like, hey, I need to like step away for a little bit, to kind of get that alone time, and vice versa them for you. Or yeah, have date nights when the kids go to sleep, or just kind of thinking about ways to do that to kind of help with that mental wellness piece.
Yeah, those are things that you just don't really think about until you're kind of in the moment. And sometimes it's a little bit too late, right? Like where you hit that burnout point or, that point of exhaustion where you're just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm giving up. But being able to kind of work with someone like yourself to kind of foresee some of those things because you are the expert in there. You've lived this, you've done that, and you continue to do it to be able to help those families. What has that journey of living with your husband and your kids in an RV? You took that risk and you created this lifestyle, and now you help others. What are the benefits? Like, why should families even be considering and thinking about doing something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like so many. I think one definitely you kind of spoke to it earlier, like it does give you a lot of confidence. And you feel like, okay, if we can figure this out, we can, as a couple, as a family unit, like we can kind of figure out any challenge that comes, towards us. I feel like, yeah, it definitely gives you a lot of resiliency. It gives you a lot of patience. On the road, there's so many random things that can happen in travel days. And like I remember one time we were kind of like the places meld together, but I think we were like up, this is like when we did our Midwest tour. And we were boondocking, which means you don't have any electricity. It was just for one night at this alpaca farm. It's really nice people. But our battery died that like charged everything. So I just remember that, we had to like go find another battery, but then it couldn't charge. And then the kids were hungry and it was all of this stuff. But it actually turned out to be a really sweet moment. And I have pictures because we were in the RV, but we had no lights and we were eating our Sonic because we just had to pick up something really quickly. And the kids just have like flashlights. And it's just really a kind of a cute moment in a stressful time. But I feel like, times like that just, yeah, teach you a lot of resiliency and patience and knowing like it's going to be okay. Like we're going to get through this. We had another situation when we were in Michigan where we had, I guess the biggest thing is with RVs is like the maintenance, right? Because that could be a huge headache and a lot of money. And so we had this whole maintenance issue, but we were on this beautiful lake in Michigan. So we just, my husband just sat there. We took a couple of deep breaths. We said kind of our favorite mantras that kind of remind us and ground us. Um, and, it ended up being fine and we figured it out. And so I feel like that, that's really given us, on top of obviously you're seeing all of these beautiful places and getting to experience all of these really cool things with kids, so there's so many memories, especially, I'm just thinking of one before my son came that my daughter when she was a toddler and we went to Yellowstone and she was like obsessed with the squirrels and they would like come up to her and she would just sit there and she wouldn't feed them because you're not supposed to, but she would just put her hands out and they'd come right up to her and she just loved that. So many fun memories and travel memories. I feel like too, like the connection, because yes, sometimes it can be very stressful to be, with your family all of the times, but I do feel like we got extremely close, because we were kind of each other, best friends at that time. So the connection, I think, is just unbeatable. Also just like learning to make friends and kind of putting yourself out there more to make friends. So maybe if you're a little bit more introverted, you kind of have to push yourself a little bit out of your comfort zone to make friends, where I think it's a little bit easier to kind of just stay siloed when you're at home because, sometimes you just don't talk to your neighbors, or it's just a little, you have to kind of I feel like RV life pushed us a little bit more to be outside of our comfort zone with like making friends and all that stuff. I also feel like one of the number one things that I talk about a lot is we got to actually spend a lot of time with friends and family that we normally wouldn't. Because if you think about at like a 9 to 5 job, you maybe have like 3, 4 weeks, if you're lucky, of vacation time a year. You're not going to spend that going to see a random cousin that like you never really see, right? You're going to spend it on vacation. But here with the RV, in the beginning, we kind of went for the sites. That was like our big thing, right? But then we slowly recognized, you know what? We really, the sites are great, but not if we don't have, fun people to kind of share it with. So we kind of switched after that first year and we would call it like a friends and family tour. And all of the friends and family that were maybe in an area that we wanted to go visit. And I'm talking like friends like from high school that maybe we hadn't seen in years, or like third cousins, or just kind of very distant people. We would make an intention to like just go see them and hang out with them. And I mean, sometimes maybe it was a little bit awkward, but for the most part, like it was amazing. And it was so fun to be able to spend this quality time with people that you normally, just wouldn't get to spend it with. I feel like that was a really cool benefit from travel. So I feel like there's so many.
Yeah, I mean, when we think about traveling in general, all the reasons why we travel and what travel has done for us. So I heard in there a lot of that human connection, whether it was between you and your partner, you and your children, building those relationships and creating memories that last a lifetime. And that's really what travel does for us. It's not necessarily like the tourist attractions we go to. It's those small moments. So like when you shared the story of the lights not working and you're eating your Sonic with your kids and their flashlights, like it's those moments that really create character and create happiness, like just really make us feel more fulfilled
Yeah.
than had things go to plan all the time. And that's exactly what travel does. I think, I know for myself when I'm asked to share like travel stories or I'm interviewing someone on the podcast and I ask about a time that, was really memorable, I guarantee they're not times that like were on an itinerary and or they had anything to do with like a popular, the most popular destinations that were just perfect. It was like these spontaneous times or someone you met that you didn't know you're going to encounter or something happened and you figured it out, and those are really just the best moments, and that's really what travel can do for us. So I heard a lot of that when you're sharing just what your adventure has done for you and your family.
Yeah.
Well, Addie, as we come towards the end here, I always love to ask, is there one fun fact about yourself, and it doesn't have to be travel or business related, that you can share with our listeners?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. And I feel like one fun fact that people are always like, oh, that's interesting, is I went to boarding school my senior year of high school and lived away from my family. It was very hard because I was very much like a mama's girl. But after a few months, like getting over the homesickness, of course, I loved it and it was amazing. And I met people from all over the world. Some of my best friends are still my best friends from that boarding school. And I feel like the transition to college was like a breeze because I had already done it for a year. So I just went off to college and it was fine. So I feel like that's kind of a fun fact that I went to boarding school, graduated from boarding school.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you. And how can our listeners find and follow you, learn more about you and your travel and mindset coaching business?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram and it's called Nomadically Thriving. And so you can follow me and all of my adventures and some tips and all that good stuff there. And then please feel free to join my Facebook group. That's where I have a lot of my free content. So I go live every Tuesday at 11 a.m. just on different topics about like what to pack or visas or, you know, with kids or jet lag or all of the different things when it comes to digital nomad families. So I have a Facebook group called Digital Nomads United that you can join too.
Wonderful. Addie, well, thank you so much for being a guest on the TCN podcast today and sharing this incredible story and what you do in your coaching business. We'll be sure to put all of those show notes or all of those links in our show notes so people can find you and join your Facebook group. Those lives sound super interesting. It was really nice to have you as a guest today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Wonderful. Everyone, be sure to follow us on Instagram at the Travel Coach Network. Learn more about us at thetravelcoachnetwork.com and come give us a hello, especially in our Facebook TCN Global community. And hopefully we can have you as a guest on our podcast or join us in the TCN in general. You can find the link for our private Facebook group, as well as all of the links for our guests, including Addie, in the show notes. There you can also find and download your own free beginner's guide to travel coaching. And if you know anyone who may be interested in travel coaching, please be sure to send them our way to our podcast. We truly appreciate that. And until next time, my fellow wanderers, bye for now.